Turns out that the threat from Bangladesh players to actually boycott games if the resignation of Nazmul Islam wasn't tendered, well, it's turned out to be a pretty true one in many ways because the boycott threat, which was issued yesterday after there were comments made by Nazmul Islam, which were deemed as derogatory towards the Bangladeshi players, well, that boycott is now in full effect because there were two matches of the Bangladesh Premier League that were set to take place today. The first was a match which was supposed to take place from 1 p.m. Bangladesh Standard Time between the Noakhali Express and Chattogram Royals. That match, well, there's no status yet on it, but what we do know is that the toss for that particular match was delayed amid the calls of a protest. Neither of the teams actually ended up reaching the ground, and it was only a handful of fans who made it to the ground for that particular game because there was an expectation that the players were, in fact, very serious about the call to actually not play as long as their demand for Nazmul Islam's resignation wasn't met. 12 o'clock Bangladesh Standard Time was supposed to be when the toss was to take place, and half an hour later, 12:30 p.m., was when it is that the match was actually supposed to get underway. As things stand, as of this live telecast, it is right now. Past 1:30, it's 1:35 in Bangladesh, and the match is nowhere close to being called off as of or it's nowhere even close to starting. As of now, it hasn't quite been called off, but what we do also know is that there'll be no talk of it calling off unless there is some sort of a late compromise that is reached between the players and the board. Now, to make things even worse, there was attempts at potentially making some sort of a compromise being reached by the players and the board, but unfortunately that compromise was not met, and this is really where things ended up getting very troublesome because there were talks that were held between the Bangladesh Cricket Board as well as the players, and the players just chose not to relent. They have said, no, we do not, in fact, want to play if Nazmul Islam doesn't resign. Now, why this is a complex issue is because there is actually difficulties for the Bangladesh Cricket Board to actually sack Nazmul Islam. Sacking him would require actually navigating a lot of red tape, a lot of diplomatic red tape, and if they do that, it would be very tough to actually remove him from his position. So, short of Nazmul voluntarily resigning from his position, there is no actual way that this particular matter can go forward, which is why the players are actually choosing such extreme measures. They're choosing not to play in the Bangladesh Premier League matches, basically foregoing their own earnings by actually wanting to try and push through something which they feel would be for the greater good of Bangladeshi cricket. They want to ensure that this man who they feel has is forced out. So, for those of you who are just joining us, because I can see there are a few of you joining this live stream right now, there had been talks of a boycott. In fact, the Bangladesh cricketers had threatened a boycott unless Nazmul Islam, who had made some pretty poor comments against Bangladesh players, unless he resigns. That threat was made last night. We covered that in a separate video. And, well, now it turns out that the threat has, in fact, been carried out. Why do I say that? Because the threat has been carried out. The Bangladesh Premier League match, which was set to start at 1 p.m. Bangladesh time, has not yet started. The toss is delayed. That has been the official version that has been put out. The toss is delayed, but the players haven't even reached the ground. Obviously, this is a developing story. There is another match set for 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, which would be about 6 o'clock Bangladesh time. That is when the second match of the day is set to take place. But as of now, there's no clarity as to whether or not even that goes forward because there is an expectation that the players will stick to the call and be solidar and show solidarity to one another and not actually play. The reason they're doing this is because they want to force Nazmul Islam to resign. Because it is worth noting that whilst the Bangladesh Cricket Board did put out a statement saying that yes, we stand in solidarity with the players and we are looking out for the best interests of Bangladesh cricket, and more importantly, that we are in fact also distancing ourselves from these comments. They were made in a personal capacity, they don't reflect how it is that we feel. Sacking him is a very tough thing to do because there is a lot of red tape involved if they want to go that route, and that red tape in itself would make it all but impossible to actually get him sacked. So that is the main reason why the players are taking such extreme measures and basically ensuring that they can actually force Nazmul to resign, because that would be the easiest way. Short of him offering to resign, there is a very tough methodology that will be needed if the Bangladesh Cricket Board are to sack Nazmul, and it would be very tough. It would be a long, drawn out process. That is why they are not going down this route. But what is very interesting to see is that the call for a strike or a boycott of all cricket has in fact been a very real one, because there were talks of two matches today and both matches potentially being affected, but obviously everyone was keeping an eye and seeing whether or not that call would actually be followed. But well, as it turns out, it has been. There is no cricket going on right now. The match should have been underway. The toss should have happened. None of that has happened. The players haven't even reached the stadium as things stand. The only people who've reached the stadium are a few hundred fans, because even among fans, there was an expectation that maybe, just maybe, the call for a boycott would be a real one, and perhaps turning up for this match might not be a very good idea. And that's exactly what has happened. The match isn't taking place as of now, and there is no indication as to whether or not the second match will also take place. And that's where things get really interesting, because there is a second match to take place later today. As of now, the first match, the start time could be pushed forward or pushed back if it really comes down to it that there is some sort of an agreement or a truce reached between the players and the board. But as of now, there is no indication whatsoever that any such truce will be reached. The players are sticking to their guns, and despite the fact that there were talks made between the Bangladesh Cricket Board and the Players Union, it didn't lead to any breakthrough, which is why the boycott, as it is going through. A very interesting story. And remember, all of it really comes back to the fact that when KKR released Mustafizur Rahman, the Bangladesh Cricket Board basically said, we don't want to play in India. We feel there's a security threat, and there is uncertainty still over Bangladesh's participation in the T20 World Cup, because even the ICC has not actually agreed or disagreed to any of their demands. That is still an ongoing dialogue, but this has become a fresh headache for Bangladesh, whereby it's one thing that they were potentially waging some sort of a battle against the ICC and by extension the BCCI in India. It's now devolved into a civil war kind of a situation, and that's where things become really, really interesting. So obviously, this is a story that is going to continue to develop through the day. Don't forget, there is a second match also that is set to take place in the BPL, the Bangladesh Premier League. If that gets cancelled, then I think it'll become even bigger. As of now, no match has officially been cancelled. The start of the match has officially been delayed because players haven't reached. But if there is to be a boycott of even the second match, then I think you could very well see change being forced through sooner rather than later. So that's the latest update. As I said, very interesting story, one that continues to develop and just keep on growing in terms of getting new facets. Now, stay tuned to Sports Today. We'll be bringing you all the updates from this and other stories. And don't forget, as always, to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, X, and Facebook. And stay tuned for more such updates from the world of sport.